In today's episode of The Rundown, we're asking a very simple question. Where is Jack Ma?
And we're talking about the breakup between Bezos, Buffett, and a bank. Stay tuned. It is Wednesday, January 6th. This is the Piper Rundown. We analyze business and culture to help you win. Today's rundown is presented by Spreadshop. Spreadshop makes it easy to make and sell merch for your company or personal brand. They have a YouTube channel where they talk all about creating, marketing, and selling your merch. Check them out. We're both wearing our Spreadshop stuff today.
Crazy.
We've been working with them for such a long time. There's some great people over there. Go get your merch from Spreadshop.
I wish I could have told you that we planned that,
I know.
but honestly,
we
it
just
was
Just by chance.
We wear it all the time.
Our first story of the day is not necessarily a fact or a statement, but a question. Where is Jack Ma? If you don't know who Jack Ma is, he is the co-founder, the former chairman of Alibaba. Alibaba is the e-commerce Goliath based in China. And people are asking this question because in November of 2020, we talked about the forthcoming Ant Group financial IPO that was intended to raise more than $30 billion, and it was squashed after Jack Ma made some inflammatory comments about banking regulation and the banking industry in general in the nation of China. He said that it had a pawn shop mentality, and he was probably not wrong. In fact, in conjunction with this story, just in the last few days, it is broken that Lai Zhaomin, who was one of the top financial regulators from 2008 to 2018, will be put to death for receiving $276 million worth of bribes during his tenure as a regulator. So understandable why Jack Ma might have said this. Now, what we want to clarify with this question is that there has been some funny business going on with Jack Ma, with Alibaba, arguably all the way from the inception of the company, but in particular for the last few years. This company was founded, and the story that gets told, I actually read, before I was much more informed on these things, I read the Alibaba Jack Ma book. Jack Ma's on the cover. It's this story of, it's crafted in the way that you would tell the story of a high-flying American or Western or any other entrepreneur. It's crafted in that mold. But the reality is, and is often told, is he was a school teacher and he just founded this technology company because of his foresight. What often gets failed to mention is that every single founder of Alibaba was a Chinese Communist Party member preceding the founding of this company. And the necessity of Alibaba was that eBay, an American Western company, had broken into the China market, was doing fantastically well. And this company was effectively propped up because of the enormous amount of control that the Chinese Communist Party needs to have over its own economy, over its sprawling mass of more than 1 billion citizens. Alibaba was given every advantage to achieve market dominance in the China economy. Jack Ma announced a retirement just over a year ago, September 2019. He retired from Alibaba. Most speculation, most savvy individuals would say that this was probably not a voluntary retirement. He was probably given a this or that option where you can either keep your enormous wealth, which is numbered, if you consider that it's mostly an Alibaba stock, to be over $40 billion, or you can keep the title and the power and the control as chairman of Alibaba. After the private meeting that was held after his derogatory comments about the financial industry, he was summoned to a closed-door meeting with top CCP officials, and it's come out, according to the Wall Street Journal, that it was explicitly, his IPO was explicitly squashed, which was supposed to go on in Shanghai and in Hong Kong, at the behest of Xi Jinping. And sometimes he will be described as the president or the chairman of the Communist Party, and what we should be doing moving forward is referring to him as the Emperor of China. And that is because Xi has been effectively at the last party convention signed in as a leader with no term limits, with no end in sight to that leadership potential. And quite simply, the party, and Xi in particular, does not take kindly, does not see much benefit to allowing other entities, particularly highly successful billionaire businessmen, to challenge his authority and his power. Needs to put him in their place. It's very gangster.
Yes, very gangster.
And the first indication that he might not be free to move about his own country or the world generally was indicated by the fact that he did not show up as a judge. He was supposed to be a judge on a TV show in Africa, African Business Heroes. But he has not been seen since that point in time. And a CNBC report came out that he was lying low for the time being. But we're now working through multiple layers of obfuscation, of spokespeople, of PR. We do not know the incentives behind those things. And quite frankly, there is a pattern, a history of billionaires, of prominent pop culture figures in China amassing too much power and then disappearing or having an accident or otherwise becoming significantly less publicly visible.
Totally. There are countless business people, activists, figures in pop culture who are, it seems to be given a fate of one of several options. Many of them are jailed for many, many years, sentenced to either life in prison or a long stint in prison. Many of them are placed under house arrest. There was one recent example of an activist, man, I might butcher the name, Gwen Chang, was sentenced to years under house arrest, and that is like on the good end of what you can get when dealing with the Chinese Communist Party. And then there are so many business people who choose to seek asylum in other countries and lie low on an island in the Maldives. And just, it's so scary when you're living in a country where such a basic human right that is speech is restricted. Obviously, you have to kind of be walking on eggshells all the time. And Jack Ma is no dummy. Like, he knew what he was saying when he was making those remarks about the banking industry. And so now the question really is he choosing to stay out of the public eye, or is he being forced to stay out of the public eye?
And people in the know have been speculating that something like this would be occurring imminently. There's, former intelligence officers focused on the region that more than a year ago were saying you might see Jack Ma outside the country and you might see his family outside the country, but you will never see both at the same time, which is absolutely chilling. If you really take a moment to consider a high-level intelligence officer stating something so matter-of-factly. And further, we'll show a clip here of a Real Vision interview that Kyle Bass conducted with an exiled Chinese billionaire, Miles Kwok, speculating on something similar.
You made two pretty bold predictions about Jack Ma. Why do you think he retired from Alibaba? And is Alibaba run by the CPC? And what do you think is likely to happen to Jack Ma in the next year or so?
I think him is only two way. All the China's billionaire, only two way. I always talk 1 year.
Only two things happen.
So jail and die.
Dead. So he's either going to jail or he's going to be killed.
I think 50-50%.
Or he might just fall off a wall.
Yes, but kill means kill. You only talk Jack Ma, Alibaba.
Yes.
You never focus. Jack Ma is have a privacy company called Finance Group.
Finance Group, yeah.
This is
Ant Financial.
Ant Financial.
Yeah.
Good translate.
It's very important to the Chinese financial system.
Oh my God, this is the
He challenges the banks.
This is really earn the money, good, is the machine.
Now we're saying all this to not necessarily just scare you or freak you out or try to stoke some sort of xenophobic tensions. We want to kind of plant a flag on a couple specific ideas. Number one, and I believe you are deeply skeptical of the notion that the U.S. economy is going to be, in terms of size and talent acquisition, there's been things blocking immigration, blocking talent from coming into the country, but at the same time, you hear stories like this, and I don't know about you, I cannot fathom this occurring to Zuckerberg or Bezos or Dorsey or these type of characters. In fact, we had complete transparency in when they were paraded in front of Congress, and they took their lumps, but it was a public transparent ordeal, and they all went back to their homes and continued on building things, creating customer value. And you have to imagine, you hear a story like this, and it's not the first time, if you are a millionaire, a billionaire in China, you are looking to GTFO, get the fuck out of Dodge with whatever you can. And it's not necessarily going to be easy, but it's the reason that Ma has bought a 22,000 acre estate in northern New York. It is a reason that an enormous number of CCP members have bought property in the United States. Part of the reason we have high real estate prices, because there is respect for the rule of law and a likelihood that it will just not all be taken from you unilaterally. Now, that being said, there are explicit efforts being made to further detach the US economy from the Chinese one and limit the scope and the pervasiveness of Chinese technology companies. Just this week, in addition to the finance chief being put to death, in addition to these questions being asked about Jack Ma, Trump issued an executive order blocking Alipay and WeChat transactions along with 6 other payment processors. If you want to transact capital in the Western Hemisphere, you are not going to be able to use those services. You're going to be pushed towards your Venmos, your Cash Apps, your other banking institutions. And further, in Hong Kong, 50 plus pro-democracy activists. You'll remember that we talked about the change in the Hong Kong securities law and the brutality in which the protesters in Hong Kong were put down. 50 plus pro-democracy activists have been arrested under that new securities law, effectively completely shutting the door on any opportunity for democracy to persist in the city of Hong Kong. Once again, this is all to paint a picture that where would you go? If you were talented, and you're probably talented because you're watching this video, where would you go if you knew that you were highly capable, if you knew that you were high potential? Which country, which economy, which ecosystem would you be more interested in being a part of?
Right. Yeah. We were kind of talking beforehand, before cameras started rolling, about how there seems to be this broad narrative that at some point China is going to surpass the US in terms of economy, in terms of just talent coming out of there. And I just don't see, if you are an ambitious individual and believe in yourself and see a grand vision making waves in the world, I don't see how you can include China in that picture. How can you?
Well, the argument is there's a lot of people, and think about the scale.
Think about the scale, but like there are so many restrictions on you. You fundamentally there is a limit as to how large you can grow, and Jack Ma is the perfect example of that.
And the other flip side of this is, we're painting very clearly the authoritarian one-party regime with a negative brush. Jack Ma is not without his faults and his shiesty behavior here.
Certainly.
We talked about the Ant Financial IPO and the likely fraudulent numbers that they were posting, claiming that they were processing 4 times the GDP of China on their platform, which seems improbable. Further, there is a question that does not often get written about, does not often get covered in financial media about how did Ant Group get spun out of Alibaba? Because the underpinning was there were all these retailers, all these folks making stuff and selling it on the Alibaba platform, and Alibaba said, whoa, we could provide basic financial services to these entities, credit, savings account, on and on down the line. How did that get spun out of Alibaba? Because Alibaba is this enormous company with a market cap in the same neighborhood as Morgan Stanley, one of the absolute biggest banks on the planet. And what happened was, when this company was spun out, Jack Ma and 17 other executives said, 52% of this company does not belong to Alibaba, it belongs to us individuals. So if you were a shareholder that probably, when you bought into Alibaba before it was spun out, said, hey, not only is this an e-commerce platform, but this is this whole other platform that, from a financial standpoint, I basically get a call option on the economy of the Chinese economy, and all of a sudden my share of that was just sliced in half and taken by these individuals with no real basis argument compensation. This would be like Jeff Bezos spinning AWS out of Amazon, and then in addition to his Amazon shares that he owns being converted into some shares of AWS, saying, I'm also just going to take 50% of that company. That absolute cash cow, one of the preeminent reasons that people buy Amazon stock, that's just mine now. Can you imagine that happening? Can you imagine that happening?
That's what happened.
That is what happened. And so that is the game that's being played there. That is the reason that I'm very glad that the people closest to me have not explicitly bought into Alibaba stock, and I hope that that includes you. Our next story is also involving, I guess that wasn't really involving Jeff Bezos, but that was supposed to be my transition point.
Yes, a slight example of Jeff Bezos.
If you could just put his beautiful bald head in the corner of the screen here, along with Jamie Dimon's and Warren Buffett's, three of the wealthiest men on the planet, made some waves 3 years ago when they said that Amazon, Berkshire Hathaway, and JPMorgan Chase, their respective companies, would be collaborating to disrupt the healthcare industry. People said, holy moly, there are no agglomeration of companies outside of like maybe Google, Apple, and Amazon that could come together with so much capital and so much human potential to disrupt an industry that has enormously, grossly high margins and is an absolute albatross of entrenched interests, lobbyists, all that good stuff. Well, 3 years later, the experiment has run its course. They are disbanding the company. The CEO of the firm stepped down earlier in 2020. And the reporting that's coming out is basically they were hyper siloed. Each respective company was kind of working on their each own respective projects. And so there wasn't a lot of collaboration happening, therefore not a lot of forward progress, and is being nixed. Here's my read on the situation. I cannot wrap my head explicitly around what Amazon needed from this enterprise outside of just the industry-specific workforces in order to test their policies. The basic idea was we're going to experiment internally in the same way that AWS was built internally for Amazon first and for their website and then spun out to serve all these other customers. We're going to try to figure out how to lower our healthcare costs, create efficiencies, and then once we've created that for ourselves and established business value for ourselves through that means, we're going to export that as a service offering. And Amazon has the cheapest access to capital of just about any company on the planet. They have all the technical and executional acumen. The big things that Berkshire and JPMorgan could have brought was actual financial resources. Right. That's the main thing that they could offer. And Amazon doesn't really need that. They have access to easy capital.
No, from the jump, I think it was such an odd collaboration. I mean, we saw just recently, but last year, as this is 2021, Amazon got into the pharmaceutical game, and as I fondly say on the show, started peddling drugs on their site. And they didn't need the partnership, and I think there's going to be so much more to see out of Amazon in this space because they just have the ability in-house to do whatever the hell they want.
Yeah. My read is that Berkshire and JPMorgan are very savvy. They're very, very aware of the hug of death that Amazon has given to other companies that they partner with, Toys R Us, all these other firms that have either like Nike gone running in the opposite direction to no longer partner with them, or found themselves copied with margins starched and a vicious new competitor in their space. And so they probably went into it saying, let's be very careful, let's not share too much about, you know, in Berkshire's case, our insurance contracts and our insurance structure, and you know, JPMorgan certainly funds the pools of capital that end up backing a lot of these insurance contracts. So that's probably what led to the siloing. Yeah. But almost by creating that siloing, they've made their bed that it wasn't going to be a successful endeavor. So I expect Amazon to still get into this business forcefully. They launched the online pharmacy. They are highly capitalized and very interested in collecting health data via the Halo, the biomarker strap thing that they're selling. So it's coming. Stay tuned. Also, you can check out a past episode of The Rundown featuring the Affirm IPO that is tentatively scheduled for the 13th, which will be next week. We did that a couple weeks ago when we thought that the Affirm IPO was imminent. It got pushed back to after the new year, but that is coming if you want to learn more about that. There will be a ton of IPO coverage in future episodes of The Rundown. Coinbase, Poshmark, Oscar Health, Bumble, Qualtrics. There was one new one that popped over the weekend.
Those are the big ones.
Oh, it was a good one though. I was excited to talk about it. Oh, Oatly.
Oh my gosh, yes, the oat milk.
Sugar milk.
Ugh. Are you a fan of oat milk?
It's Coke. It is the modern day, not like cocaine, like the soda drink.
Right.
It's super unhealthy for you.
Yeah,
But it's dressed up
what
as
I
healthy.
hear. Yeah, which is super. It's lactose free, so I guess that's a plus for those of you who are lactose intolerant. Kobe.
R.I.P.
Well, that's a rundown. Hit like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.